welcome to Selling Power TV. This is Gerhard Schwantner, and our segment is called Ask Anthony. Welcome, Anthony.
Hey, Gerhard, how are you?
So let's go to our first question that has been submitted by video.
I wondered, how do you help reps sound like human beings when they're in sales conversations, especially cold calls? A lot of times we get a little sing-song, a little robotic, a little sound like they're reading. How do you get them over that hump, sound like people and have real conversations?
The ability to develop the chops and to feel like a peer and to be conversational only comes with time. All salespeople need a script at the beginning because they need to understand the talk tracks and what they're supposed to be saying and what kind of questions they're likely to hear and what kind of concerns their customer might likely give them so that they know what's coming up and how they should deal with it. But over time, as a leader and a manager, you have to start giving people more experiences and start working them off the script. And what I mean by that is they have to get comfortable in what they're really trying to do. They've got to get comfortable with other choices that are available to them. And I think for new reps, they think there's just this one right language choice and that's what we do. And there's not. There's all kinds of variations because when we have communication, that's about the most complex and dynamic human interaction that we can have. And you need the rep to start saying, wait a second, there's multiple choices here. So as you're working with a rep, you want to start explaining to them that this is one way to resolve this concern, this is another way to resolve this concern, this is one way to enter into the conversation, this is a very different way. And you want them to start sharing ideas with each other so they just become more conversational. And then they'll sound more like human beings and less like robots.
And you do that by practicing mindfulness.
The idea that they have to be mindful and understand, look, we're trying to get an outcome for an individual and with an individual, and there's lots of ways to get there. So the looser you get, the easier it is for that to happen.
Anthony, our next question comes from Chris Hopper. Let me play it for you.
Anthony, my question today is, with all the material that's out there as far as how to email, how to cold call, how to prospect, how to use social media, that my head tends to spin and I get into a mode of paralysis by analysis where I spend more time reading material than actually practicing any of it. So each week I go in and think I have a new silver bullet and then switch it up week in, week out. So looking for some guidance from you as far as how to effectively stick with the plan and write it out to really see how effective it can be versus continue to change the approach, which is causing me to really spin my cycles and not really be effective in what I do.
You could spend hours and hours trying to come up with the perfect system or the perfect email or the perfect call script. But the right thing to do is to use something long enough that you can capture enough data points to determine whether it's the right thing, whether it's being effective, or whether you should change it up. So when you go from week to week changing everything, then you never get the kind of insight or data that allows you to make a decision as to what you should change, if you should change it at all, or how you should change it, and what you might do. So let me give you just one thing that I found super helpful. You take and you decide, I'm going to do a campaign. So instead of prospecting and instead of going out and trying to find the next idea, you just design a campaign that lasts you for the full 13 weeks. And you say, I'm going to start with this email, and then I'm going to make this phone call, and then I'm going to connect on LinkedIn, and then I'm going to send this particular insight, and then I'm going to send this handwritten thank you. And design it all in one day, in one sitting, lay out all the pieces so that you're forced to just execute from that point forward. Now, you've taken away any need to go out and find any new kind of resource or any new kind of insight or any kind of new tactic or strategy, and you just execute for a full quarter. At the end of that quarter, you can look at the results, see how you've done, and then you can make adjustments for another quarter. And I tell you this as someone who spends hours trying to set up the perfect system, but I've since given up on perfect, and execution and deciding what you're going to do ahead of time eliminates the need to go out and keep searching.
Write the word focus on a sticky note, put it in front of your bathroom mirror, put it in front of your desk, put that sticky in your car, and remind yourself that success is all about focus on the right priorities.
Absolutely, Gerhard. Focus is the new currency of success. And anything that you can give your full attention to, you're going to produce way outsized results.
All right, Anthony, here's our last question from Irina Hayden.
When you know you are dealing with unfulfilled potential, when you know that the greatness in front of you cannot get out of their way, what is the most effective way to communicate to break through?
Whenever you start talking about an individual being in their own way when it comes to creating success and reaching their full potential, you're talking about every human being on earth. You're talking about all of us, because every single one of us is our own obstacle to the greater level of success that's available to us. But the trick is they have to want it for themselves, and that starts with creating an awareness that there's something greater available to them and that they're their own obstacle. And the way that I would recommend you do this, or the way that I've had the most success anyway, is with non-directive coaching. And with directive coaching, I'm going to say something like, Irina, can't you see what's available to you here? Can't you see how easy this would be for you to go from where you are right now to being the top performer that I know you could be? That's going to cause a person to feel a certain something, where if you're taking a more non-directive approach, you're going to say something like, what do you think, what kind of new results do you think are available to you? And if you wanted those, what would you have to change? And now I'm giving that person all of the responsibility to do the thinking about what it is, to decide whether it's something that they can come aware of on their own. And that's a different approach, but it gets a better result than actually trying to force somebody to be the person that you know they can be. So I would recommend, if you haven't looked at non-directive coaching, you look at a non-directive coaching approach and you start to ask questions that allow a person to gain that awareness on their own, because their commitment to do something about it will be far greater.
This concludes our Ask Anthony segment. Thank you, Anthony. Join us again next week. And if you like it, hit the like button. And if you want to participate, send us your videos. And I have a description in the YouTube video where you can text me your video questions. Thank you.